Hello everyone, welcome to Dnyanadeep. In this session, we are going to discuss one more question from geography optional paper, and we'll try to understand how a geography optional answer should be written, or in general, what should be the approach when it comes to optional answer writing. This is a question from UPSC 2023 paper. This was a 10 marker question which was supposed to be written in 150 words, right? This is a topic in human geography, and in human geography we have a topic called population and settlement, and within population settlement also there is a discussion on various theories of population, and separately also in the models and theories wala section we have Malthusian theory to discuss in population, right? Now when it comes to this particular question, let's go through it. What it is asking, it is asking, has Malthusian theory been discredited in contemporary times? Fine. Has Malthusian theory been discredited in contemporary times? Justify your answer. Now, if you have gone through past few years paper, or typically right since 2012 or more since 2015, we find that in geography theory part, there has been a question which is asking contemporary relevance, right? So earlier, if you go back before 2015, you will find that questions are asking regarding theory only, right? Malthusian theory, right? Marxian theory of population growth. But post 2015, we find that they are no more asking you typical theories. They are asking you their present day or contemporary relevance of each and every single theory. Now, when it comes to the relevance of Malthusian theory, first and foremost, you should be aware of Malthusian theory and briefly what Malthus talked in his theory. So Malthus is saying about the availability of resources, fine, and the growth of population. What is the all discussion in case of Malthusian theory? The discussion is same. For any population to survive, what do we need? We need resources, right? And what Malthus is saying, see, there will come a time where resources will be outstripped by population, and that moment is nothing but Malthusian catastrophe. And at the same time, what will happen? Population will grow to such an extent that there will be no more resources available for that population, and some way or the other there are positive checks and preventive checks in Malthusian theory, where we have discussed how population will come down, and natural causes are given by Malthus such as famine, some catastrophe which will bring down the population. So that was the briefly population theory of Malthus. Now when it comes to the contemporary times, we just have to tell whether in contemporary times this particular theory is relevant or not. So let's jump to the answer. In introduction, there can be multiple ways to introduce. Some generic ways, let us say generic ways. Let's talk about present day population problem. That can be one introduction. Another can be regarding population policies, whatever population policies which are being conducted all across the globe, because whatever policy we have all across the globe being implemented by various countries, somewhere or the other, all the population policies have their root in the theory part, right? So there will be some population policy based on Malthusian theory, there will be some population policy based on neo-Malthusian theory or Marxian theory, so on and so forth. So that can also be the way to introduce. Now one classical way is always there. You can talk about when did Malthus presented this particular theory, what was the name of the essay, right, in which Malthus came up with this particular idea. But I am in this particular case going to avoid naming that particular paper, research paper, or the year. Simple reason is, if you look at maybe 100 or 200 answers in line, you will find that each and every single person would have started with that, because that is one obvious fact or information which is known to each and every single serious aspirant. Fine. And that is where your answer will start to look like an average answer. And that is why I'm not here going to be making a very conscious choice, right? In maybe other answers you would have found that I was trying to introduce geographers, I was trying to introduce their work and years. But in this particular case, because I know most of the population would know this particular fact, right? And that is why I'm not going to write that particular fact at the beginning. I would start with some population problems in contemporary times, or even population policies for that matter. Okay, so that is how a very generic introduction, or some introduction which is providing facts or anything, that is something I am taking. Now I am coming to the body part, because it's a 10 marker question, so we don't have much of a luxury to write. So what should be ideally approach in this particular question if you are asked anything on a theory and its contemporary relevance? So there can be two cases. One case, that this particular theory is not at all relevant, or there can be a theory that a particular theory is completely relevant, right? So these are the two sections in which the relevance could go. Most of the theories, you will find that they have become obsolete, but there still are a few theories which are relevant. Fine. So in between these two, there will be a third category of theories. What will be that third category of theory? A theory which is relevant in part. Fine. So some part of the theory is still relevant. That is something we need to understand. And then there will be some theories which are relevant for some part of the world. Right? What I am saying here, when I talk about the contemporary relevance of any theory, it can either be relevant or it cannot be relevant. Now between these two extremes, there is one more way of thinking about it. Take any particular theory. It may happen that some part of it, a few components of that particular theory could be relevant, or a complete theory could be relevant for some part of the world. These are also possibilities, and in this way you are supposed to write down the contemporary relevance wherever asked. Now, one more precaution you need to take while preparation. Most of the candidates prepare these theory very well, but what they miss upon? They miss upon identifying contemporary theory or contemporary relevance of theory. So here onwards, just make sure whatever theory you are reading in geography optional, just write down your notes regarding that theory, and just below that theory, identify its contemporary relevant. If it is relevant, how it is relevant, write down that, and at the same time support something to take your view. If you think that some part is relevant or that theory is relevant, then and there itself justify it with some examples, some case studies. If you think that it is not relevant, again, then and there in your notes justify it with some examples and some case studies, because whatever question which is going to be asked on this particular theory, nobody is going to ask you theory. Fine. What question is going to be asked? You will be asked on contemporary relevance of a theory, and that is how you are likely to, or you are supposed to prepare. So I have just given you a brief idea on how to prepare these theories in geography optional. Moving back to question. Now let's say when it comes to Malthusian theory, is it relevant? So what Malthus said? Malthus said whatever resources we have, resources will grow arithmetically. Fine. And when it comes to population, how population is going to grow? It will grow at geometric progression. Fine. So this is what Malthus suggested, and then Malthus said, you see, population is growing like this. Sorry, resources are growing like this. Population is growing exponentially. There will be a movement, that is Malthusian catastrophe. And after that, things will become uncontrollable, and nature in that particular case will take care of itself. Clear? Now, if I look at present day, what do I find? I find that when it comes to resources have gone equally well as compared to populations, and in most part of the world, we do not find that there is resources which has not been sufficient as to support the population. That scenario has never happened. And even if in particular micro part of the world, if it has happened, rest of the world has come and supported that particular part, right? So whatever Malthus was suggesting, that is simply something which has not happened. Clear? So if I take the contemporary relevance of Malthusian theory, I can simply say, you see, by and large, this Malthusian theory does not find a contemporary relevance. This is my direct answer, because it is being asked, you justify your answer. I'll say, I do not find resources have been outstripped by population, and since that hasn't happened, catastrophes haven't taken place, so simply this particular theory is not as relevant in contemporary times, right? So this is my half of the answer, half of the body. Here you cannot conclude, because since like most of the candidates would conclude here, if you really want to make your answer better, you'll have to step ahead, go one more step ahead, and then go for neo-Malthusian theory. Say कि whatever Malthusian theory we had was modified by neo-Malthusians, and they talk about the management of resources, right? They talk about keeping both population and resources hand in hand. Okay, so that is more a view of management when it comes to neo-Malthusian theories. If you look at around the world, take example of anti-natalist population policies which are being run. Take example of India's population policy and China's population policy, where we are talking about population control, right? In case of China, there is a aim of reduction of population, and when it comes to India, we are saying that we should not allow population to grow haphazardly, unmanagedly, and there should be some population control. Now, as we are saying that there should be some population control, why we are saying that there should be some population control? We are suggesting a population control because we do not want resources to deplete completely, right? So our population policies are based on what? Management, which was suggested in neo-Malthusian theory. But if I go to the base of this particular theory, or if I go to the base of the population policies of India and China, am I not talking about resources again? And did Malthus not start at the same point again, right? Malthus is starting at resources. Malthus is saying that resources are not going to grow at a geometric progression, but population is going to grow at a geometric progression, right? And then there will be a mismatch. So though that didn't happen, the population grew maybe exponentially, but at the same time resources equally grew well. Fine, that has happened. That's a understandable factor that has been accepted, and that is where we rejected Malthus's idea of population growth. But the underlying factor we need to identify here, whatever population policies which are being implemented, and typically anti-natalist population policies across the world, they are based on what? They are based on the idea of resources getting depleted. If population increases uncontrollably, certainly one day we will not have resources. And then that is why China or India, they have anti-natalist population policy. So though directly I am saying ki, see, Malthus's theory as a whole is not applicable, because his idea of arithmetic and geometric progression of resources and population respectively is not being suitable here in contemporary times. That is not applicable. But his fundamental soul or fundamental idea of Malthusian population policy is still relevant, because you are still bothered about resources, and that is something I am going to write in next part of my answer. In first part I said, see, it's not relevant. But in next part what I am saying, see, though it is not relevant, but let's look at its root. Let's look at its soul. We are still carrying the soul of Malthusian population policy in terms of antinatalist population policy. Give example of population policy of India and give example of population policy of China, right? And make mention of neo-Malthusian theory as nothing but an extension of Malthusian theory of population. So that is how you are going to address or you are going to deal with the dynamism of this particular question. Now this question was very dynamic, right? And this is the exact line or this is the exact thought you are supposed to give when it comes to dynamic questions in geography answer. So that is how my body part is going to conclude. In diagram, I can draw that Malthusian theory ka diagram, that would be fine. Now, in conclusion, you can again talk about what should be the future course when it comes to the management of population, or suggest some way forward, right? Whatever population policies we are implementing, there can be multiple way forwards you can give here. I can give a way forward saying that most of the population policies are now trying to address the quantity problem. But let's have population policies which are also going to address quality problem. Now I am just shifting my discussion. Whole of the question I discussed Malthusian problem. In conclusion, I am saying that whatever we have discussed is discussed. Most of the world still follows the soul of Malthus. But here onwards, as we look towards the future, so let's not only bother about the population growth, let's also bother about the quality of human resource. That could be one way to conclude. And then there can be various other generic ways also, where you will again sum up whole of the theory, sum up whatever has been written till now, and then you will conclude, right? So you can choose your conclusion in this particular part. So with this, we'll stop again and we'll see you in next session. So good day.